Hey, have you ever gone to a car dealership and they've told you what your car is worth, or maybe what your car is not worth, and you feel like the dealership is actually shortchanging you on the value of your trade-in? Well, this podcast is going to talk about that. Why is your car losing so much value? So if you have a car and you want to find out what is the reason why and what can you do in regards to that, I want you to stay tuned. You are listening to the Carman Show podcast.
Car, man, car, man, car, man, car, man, car, man, car, man. It's about that time. Yeah, you know, get ready for the Carman Show. Turn on your TVs and your radios. It's time for the Carman Show. It's about that time. Yeah, you know. Get ready for the Carman Show. Turn on your TVs and your radios. It's time for the Carman Show. Tired of riding that old car, spending all that cash on breakdown and repairs, burning all that gas. Paying on time, but car got you late. Need a newer car with a lower interest rate. Public transportation, giving you the blues. Call the car man, he'll know what to do. Don't waste no more time, cause now you know, pick up the phone. It's the Carman Show. Who can? You can. Who can? You can. I can. You can. With who? Carman. Who can? You can. Who can? You can. I can. You can. With who? Carman. Who can? You can. Who can? You can. I can. You can. With who?
All right. You're listening to the Carman Show podcast. I'm glad to be here on today, and we are going to be talking about a subject that I think is very important to so many of you, and it's all about the value of your trade-in. It's all about the value of your trade-in. So let's start off. Why is your car losing so much value? Why is your car losing so much value? First of all, it all starts with the year of the car. A lot of times people don't understand that the older the car, the lesser value it is worth to the dealership. And when you look at it from a long-term perspective, the year of the car has a lot to do with the financing, because banks typically will only finance cars. The good banks will only finance cars that go 5 or 6 years back. So with this being 2018, anything past a 2012 is going to be difficult to get financed through one of your primary banks. The reason why is because they know the value is dropping, and is dropping at a rapid pace, and it's just not any real value. The number 5 years is that number. But, you know, there are a lot of you, unfortunately, that are financing cars that are over 10 years old. You're financing 2008s, 2007s, 2006s, and you have balances on those cars. And the thing that you got to realize is when you have a car that is that old, it becomes more and more of a dinosaur. It becomes more and more of a vehicle that is going to be looked at from the car dealership perspective as an old car. And old cars get very little money on trade-in. Now, one of the things that also affects your car losing value, and, you know, if you have a car that is older, you got a lot of miles on it. Now, mileage is kind of tricky because obviously every car that you drive, you will put miles on the car. But you need to know as a consumer where you are at with your mileage so that you can try to control the loss of value on your car as much as possible. So that being said, a lot of you may have cars that are in between 50,000 and 80,000, where if you're between 50 and 80,000, you're probably at a good number that you can maximize the trade-in value for you. So you can still get a decent amount of money on the trade-in because the dealerships will feel comfortable in giving you what is needed to trade that vehicle in because they know they can turn around and resell that vehicle on their end and make money. And notice I said make money because they want to take the car in low enough so that in case they have to put anything into it, like, fixing something or whatever, that they don't end up losing money. Now, there are a lot of you that are in the other category, which is the 80 to 99,000 miles. And I say that this is the typical person that has extremely high interest rates, and you are financing something on an older car. You probably had bought it with 50, 60, 70,000 miles on it. Well, now that car has between 80 and 99,000 miles. Now, the key thing to this is with you having a car that has 80 to 99,000 miles on it, it puts you in a situation that when that car turns over to be 100, it is going to take a major dive. So for you want to try to have it so that you can trade out of it before it hits 100,000. There's a dramatic difference between a car, two people bringing in the same car. One person has 98,000 miles on it. The other person has 108,000 miles on it. That mileage is relatively close, but the values aren't. So you need to understand that if you don't have 100,000 miles on your vehicle, this is the time when you have that 80 to 99,000 miles, that is the time that you look at trying to trade it in so that you can maximize the most that you can get before it takes that big dive. Now then, what about all of you that have 100,000 miles on your car? 100,000 miles on a car is 100,000 miles on your car. And it's really not a lot you can do with it. And let me tell you this, highway miles don't count. A lot of times some of you say, hey, I've got highway miles. It doesn't matter. 100,000 miles on your dash is 100,000 miles. And most of you not only have 100,000 miles, a lot of you have 150,000 miles. Some of you have 170,000 miles. And every once in a while I'll have somebody that has over 200,000 miles. Well, I'm here to tell you on today that if you have a vehicle that you are financing and it has over 100,000 miles, you have got to find out if there is a better option for you. You got to find out if there's a better option for you, because if there is a better option for you, you can put yourself in a situation to get a car with a lower mileage. And that is so important. So make sure that if you have a car that has high miles, that you examine all of the possibilities of being able to get out of it, because it is important to not get yourself into a major problem of being upside down. Not get yourself into a major problem of being upside down. So if you just tuned in, you are listening to the Carman Show podcast. We're talking about cars losing value. I've just talked about the year and the miles on vehicles. Well, there's another thing that actually controls cars losing value, and that is cars that have been discontinued. So if you happen to be a person that has financing one of these cars that have been discontinued, I want to urge you to look at trading that vehicle in as soon as possible so that you can get out of that vehicle, because once a vehicle is not being made anymore, the value drops down dramatically. So what I want to do is I'm going to give you a list of some of the cars that are that either are discontinued or will be discontinued. You can contact your manufacturer to find out more, but this is the list. So if you have one of these cars, I urge you to look at trying to get out of it because it's not being made anymore. 2012, 2017 Buick Verano. 2014, 2017 to 2017 Chevrolet SS. 2011, 2000 to 2017 Chrysler 200. I know a lot of you have that. Mercedes-Benz B-Class Electric Drive 2014 to 2017. 2012 to 2017 Mitsubishi MIEV. Mitsubishi Lancer 2002 to 2017. Nissan Quest 1993 to 2007. That's how long that car lasted. Nissan Quest. Volkswagen CC. Volkswagen Touareg. Then we have the Dodge Viper. We have the Hyundai Azera, the QX70 Infiniti, the Jeep Patriot, the Lexus CT200H, the Volkswagen Scirocco, the Dodge Dart, the Cadillac Catera, the Pontiac Aztek, the Ford Fiesta. These are some of the older cars that we have. The Town and Country, the Dodge Grand Caravan, the Land Rover, the Kia Forte Coupe. These are some of the vehicles that have been discontinued, are or will be discontinued. Now, you may or may not have heard your car on the list that I gave, but I urge you to call your manufacturer and find out to make sure that that car is not being discontinued, to make sure that that car is not being discontinued so that you are able to get out before it does, because once your car is discontinued, the value drops dramatically down. So listen, we're getting ready to take a real quick break. I'm going to finish up talking about why is your car losing value. What I want to examine next is the problem of being upside down. So not only is your car losing value, you are upside down by a dramatic amount of money, and we need to talk about that. But we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to spotlight a car right now, and then I'm going to come back and talk about being upside down. But first, let's take the quick break. We're going to come back and talk about the 2018 Kia Stinger. Be right back.
Hey, this is the Car Man. Need an upgrade in your car? Call me to upgrade your car. 877-870-4815. Need a lower car payment for what you drive? Call me for a better payment. 877-870-4815. Need a car with bad credit? I can get you approved based on your job. 877-870-4815. To listen to my next show and get a list of all my car buying programs, go to my website, thecarmanshow.com.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Car Man Show podcast. For all of you that don't know anything about me, I've been doing radio for 20 years. I've been doing radio for 20 years, just starting to get into the podcast game. A lot of people have talked to me about doing one. A lot of people I know actually have one. So definitely I'm excited about this new avenue as far as getting the word out on what you do. And I hope that you tune in continuously when all the new podcasts come out and get valuable information that can help you, because what my goal has always been is to educate the automotive car buyer one customer at a time. One customer at a time. So let's talk about the car that I'm going to highlight today, and it's the 2018 Kia Stinger. GT2 all-wheel drive. And the thing about it is that I saw this car at the auto show recently, and it caught a lot of eyes. I mean, Kia has done a lot at changing the image and coming out with vehicles that are very competitive and have a lot of the things that people want. So, for instance, with this 2018 Kia Stinger GT2, it's an all-wheel drive, which basically means all four wheels are going and you can get better traction when it's slippery or wet outside. It's a 3.3-liter V6, 365 horsepower. It'll hit 60 seconds from a standstill in 60 miles an hour from a standstill in just 4.7 seconds. That means from the time that you put your foot on the gas it will have already reached 60 miles an hour in only 4.7 seconds. The top speed they estimate being 167 miles per hour, which is fast. It's real fast. It has a large trunk that can swallow up a respectable over 23 cubic feet of cargo. And if you put the seats down, you know how sometimes you can put seats down, it actually increases the cubic foot of cargo space to 40.9 cubic feet, which is enough to put a lot of things in the back of that vehicle. The GT2 spec also has Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It's something that is said with these cars and with Kia in coming up with all these new kind of innovations that can make the car drive, the experience much better. They have an 8-inch touchscreen display. The speaker system is off the charts. It's a high-quality 15-speaker Harman Kardon audio system. Now, for some of you that don't know Harman Kardon, I urge you to go look it up. You know, I've been into audio for a long time, and that is one of the top systems. So for them to have an audio system that is put together by Harman Kardon, they're giving you the best of the best. They have heated seats, heated front seats, but also they have cooled front seats. So have you ever gotten your car in the summertime? I was in Las Vegas not too long ago, and it happened to be over 120 degrees there. And if you have leather and you get in a car that has 120 degrees, it's going to burn your leg or your bottom or whatever. Whereas if you get cooled front seats, what happens is that it'll make it cooler, so it's easier for you to sit down. So that's a major plus for people that either need the heated seats or need the cool seats. There's a special package that is, that deals with Kia safety issues, and Kia has this package. It's called the ADAS package, and it's helpfully assist you with blind spot detection, forward collision and warning assistance, and then lane departure warnings. So in essence, this vehicle is going to be operating 100% on your behalf while you're behind the wheel. It is going to give you notifications. If anything falls off of what it should be, you'll be notified. Now, one of the things about the Kia product is, the cost. And you look at a lot of the other vehicles that are in the same category as the Kia Stinger, and it's a dramatic difference. So, a couple vehicles I can bring out. The Audi S5 starts at $42,600. The BMW 4 Series Grand Coupe starts at $48,300, and the 2000 the Q50 Infiniti Q50 starts at $40,650, whereas the base Stinger price is just $32,800, and then the base Stinger GT base price is $39,250. Now that sounds like a good deal to me. It definitely sounds like a good deal. And it's something that could fit for most of you that may be out here. Now, there's two powertrains that are available. The Stinger 2.0T is powered by a 2.0 four-cylinder engine. The GT has the 3.3 V6, prices I've told you, the $31,000 for the 2.0, and then the 3.3 GT is base price is $39,000. So I hope that you are able to get some information that can help you. Maybe if you're interested in purchasing a Kia, you have an opportunity to get into a pretty good vehicle, and not only a pretty good vehicle, but you can get into a vehicle that is affordable And that's really the bottom line. Everybody wants affordability. You want good payments. You want low cost. And that's one of the things that you get here. You get more for your money. So definitely that was a spotlight of the 2018 Kia Stinger. I hope that if you're interested in that vehicle, you take some of the information that I've given you and utilize it to help you down the road. Now, speaking of helping down the road, we talked about why is your car losing so much value. The problem of being upside down, is really that a lot of people don't even know what upside down means. After all these years that I've been on radio all over the country, it still surprises me that people don't know what being upside down is. So let me give you the quick definition. The quick definition is that being upside down is basically owing more on your car than what you think. I mean, owing more on your car than what the value is. So what I mean by that is that a lot of you have cars you may owe $5,000, but the actual trade-in value on the car is $1,000. And let me tell you loud and clear, your car is not going to be worth what you think. Most people are completely wrong when it comes to figuring out how much they think their car is worth. The car is worth market value, not sentimental value. And so a lot of people may ask, how does a car value drop so quickly? As you heard me talk about, it's the mileage. It's the wear and tear. And unfortunately, your car depreciates every day, but you make one car payment a month. And that car payment has to go toward the car, and it has to go toward the finance charges. And in the beginning of your loan, the finance charges are paid first. That means that you get those, the bank makes sure that they get their money up front, because they know if you trade that car in sooner, guess what? They're not going to get that money in from the finance charges. So they're going to charge you first. So with you making one payment and the car losing value every day, so no way you can catch up. Now, to be honest with you, as far as resale value, trucks and SUVs do have a little bit better resale value. They do have a little bit better resale value. But I want to tell you that you need to be careful, because some people get these expensive vehicles, and expensive vehicles are expensive upside down balances. I always give the story of a guy who had an Audi truck, and I forget which model it was, but it was an Audi truck. He owed $45,000. I looked at the vehicle a few different times and said that the most that it would be worth would be $20,000, which would put him $25,000 upside down. That means that in order for him to get out of that car, he's going to have to eat up some of that money. And in that case, $25,000, he's probably going to have to eat up $22,000 of it, or he can't get out the vehicle right now. You know, now most people are not upside down by that type of money, but most people are on average upside down between $5,000 to $8,000. Some are upside down $3,000 to $5,000, and then some are upside down over $10,000. But whatever number you're upside down, you have to figure out. You have to figure out if it is a situation that you can get out. Now, let me explain to you the easiest way to get out from being in an upside down situation. It takes money. Money out of your pocket, money from the dealership, and money from the manufacturer in forms of rebates. So if you get the right rebates on the right car with the right dealership and the right money down, most people can get out of their vehicle. So speaking of that, I want to let you know that that's what I specialize in. You know, I specialize in helping people get out of upside down situations. That's what I do. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but if you know how to work numbers, you can always make it happen. So, you know, you picked up in the first segment, you know, what is causing your car to lose value. Second segment, we talk about being upside down in that whole scenario. And, you know, what should you do in that scenario? I'm here to tell you that there are a lot of you there are a lot of you out here that need to know what's the best thing for you to do to get into something else. What is the best thing that you need to do to get into something else? So I'm going to talk about in our next segment how to get out of an upside down situation. Bottom line, how do you, if you are upside down by 3,000, by 5,000, by 8,000, by 10,000, what can you do? What can you do? And that's what I'm going to be talking about in our next segment. But before we go into the next segment, we have a first on our podcast. It's called our Customer Car Review. And what we'll do is basically talk to different people who have car stories. They have cars, and I'm going to have them evaluate their own cars. So you can pick up some valuable information on cars that maybe you wouldn't have gotten the information. And the beauty about it is these are used cars, obviously. You don't see a lot of ratings of used cars. So this is your opportunity to talk to someone that has the same car that you would be looking at. And that's really what we're talking about. So I want you to stay tuned. I'm going to tell you exactly how to get out of your upside down situations. I'm going to give you a couple of examples. And we're just going to examine what can be done in your situation. But before we do that, I want to have our customer car review. I want you to listen. And as I talk to one of my satisfied customers that has a review on 3 different types of vehicles, we're going to talk about and figure out how that information on those vehicles can help you. So again, you're listening to the Carman Show podcast, and now I want you to stay tuned for our customer car review. Welcome back. You are listening to the Carman Show podcast. I'm excited to have you listening because each and every podcast you're going to pick up valuable information that is going to help you become a smarter consumer. And speaking of valuable information, we have a new segment that we're debuting right now called the Customer Car Review. And what we're going to do, instead of having experts talk about different cars, I've decided to bring on regular everyday people to talk about not only their cars, but their experiences at car dealerships, 2 or 3 of the cars that they've had, so you can get some insight from somebody that maybe you can relate to. And the first person for this podcast segment that we're doing called the Customer Car Review is my sister. And her name is Carla, and, I've helped her buy a lot of cars over the years, but I wanted her to come and talk to you about some of her experiences with cars, with dealerships, and hopefully one of you will be able to pick up some valuable information. How you doing, Carla?
I'm doing good.
Well, listen, Carla, obviously that's my sister, so I know pretty much all the answers to a lot of these questions, but a lot of people may not know that, may be able to pick up some information from you. So let's talk about your experiences, the ones that you've had with car dealerships. What has been your experience with car dealerships, or just, the good, the bad, and the ugly?
Honestly, because the car man is my brother and you send me to dealerships, I really haven't had any negative experiences with dealerships because they know that you have educated me on how, what's the right deal, and you always checked my paperwork. So I don't have anything negative to say about any dealerships. I do know people who've had, especially women, who've had horror stories going into car dealerships and just getting taken advantage of. But fortunately, I haven't had that issue.
Well, do you have one of those experiences, one of those horror stories that you can think of off the top of your head?
Well, yeah, a friend of mine went into a dealership and just probably paid a couple $1,000 extra for a car, and then once she signed the dotted line, realized that she had not gotten a good deal, and then there was nothing that she could do. So That's one experience of many that I've heard of.
Well, you know what? One of the things that happens is that, and that I'm glad you brought that up because there are a lot of people out here that don't understand when you sign your name on the bottom line, that is the bottom line, and that's it. And so you always need to make sure that you are totally knowledgeable of the contracts, which is what they are, that you're signing, because they are legally and binding agreements between you and the finance company. So always make sure that you understand that. Now, we want to talk about 3 different vehicles that you've had over the last few years, maybe the last 10 years or whatever it's been. Let's talk about, and I know you had a lot of experiences with your Land Rover. Let's talk about that Land Rover. First of all, talk about how you felt when you got it, but then talk about some of the issues that you had once you became a Land Rover owner for a while.
Well, this was one of, I think this Land Rover was the last car that I bought on my own without your assistance. I paid cash for it. It was a used vehicle, and I bought it from a mechanic. So I was excited just because I was like, oh, I've got a Land Rover, not realizing that this Land Rover had all these miles on it, and it was, in my opinion, it was a lemon because it stayed in the mechanic's garage more than it stayed in mine. So after that, I decided that I would never, I was totally against the whole Land Rover family, and I would never buy a car like that again because it was just a lemon.
Now, one of the things that I know that you experienced that you had is realizing how expensive it was to get it repaired. Talk to us about that.
Well, normally I could go to a Jiffy Lube or get a $29, $39 oil change. With this Land Rover, it was like over $100 for just a simple oil change. So everything in the car was probably triple of all the maintenance was probably triple of what a normal car would be.
So you know what? Let's put that Land Rover to rest. I remember, I think a brake job was almost close to $1,200 or some crazy number like that. And, you know, a lot of people like the vehicle because it's a status symbol. It's kind of one of the vehicles to have. But when you pay big money for a vehicle or you buy a used vehicle that was once big money, guess what? Your repair bills equal big money. So you left the Land Rover family, and one of the most recent vehicles outside of the one you have now that you had was the Jeep Liberty. Now talk to us about the Jeep Liberty. The Jeep Liberty is a vehicle that a lot of people out here have.
I had a '07 Jeep Liberty, and it was a really good car. It really didn't have a lot of problems from a maintenance perspective. And it was just overall, it was a really good car. I had it for about 4 years, and then the engine just stopped working.
Okay, when you say the engine stopped working, you remember how many miles you had on it?
I think it had like 130,000 miles on it.
So 130,000 miles. And I can tell you from when she had it is all of a sudden she started telling me some of the things that were going wrong with it, and I basically knew that it was a situation that she had to get out of it. Now, before you got the car that you had the Jeep Liberty. There was a lot of money that was owed on that vehicle, and one thing that all of you need to understand is that when you owe a lot of money on a car and it starts having problems, guess what it's not worth? It's not worth any money. And so what happens is you end up having so much negative equity, which is the difference between what you owe and what the car is worth. And so, she called me, and I was able to say, well, let me make some calls to some of my contacts, and we ended up helping her get into a car. So talk to us about what type of vehicle you have now in the year.
I have a 2014 Chrysler 300.
And the 2014 Chrysler 300. What was your first impression of the vehicle?
I had a lot of first impressions. I had been driving a truck for a long time, and when I was gonna get a new vehicle, I just automatically in my mind thought that I would get another truck. However, I didn't need a truck because I had a truck when I had smaller kids, and now that my kids are in college, it's just me for the most part. And so I didn't need all that room for book bags. And then when I saw the car, I was like, well, this is a really, really nice looking car. It's a blue. It's got kind of glitter paint. I don't know the technical name for it, but it looks really beautiful in the dark.
Well, it's a midnight blue. That's the actual color of it. It's a midnight blue, and it is almost looks like the limo Chrysler 300s for some of you that have seen those. It's definitely a nice vehicle. What do you think has been the biggest adjustment that you've had to make in getting this car that was so different than any other thing that you've driven?
The thing that really, my biggest adjustment is the fact that this car gets so much attention, and I don't like that. I've had people pull up like next to me. You don't, the way that things are happening now, you don't know if somebody's trying to carjack you, but people are always talking to me about this car. And had I known that, I might have made a different decision, because you can't really be incognito in a car like this.
Now, what is it outside of that, and I can understand that, what is it that you really like about the vehicle?
The thing I like most about the vehicle is that it's very luxurious, and it drives very smooth. It's almost like you floating. I know that I've taken a couple of road trips, and I feel like I'm going a lot slower than I am, and I look at the speedometer and I'm doing 80. So I have to be very careful with that, because it's so smooth, you don't realize how fast you're actually going.
Now, there are a lot of people out here that are listening. What would be your advice? Let's say that everybody was listening to you. You are right now a car review critic. And so people want to know, who are listening, thinking about purchasing a 2014 Chrysler 300, what advice would you give them?
I would say, I wouldn't necessarily say not to do it, but one thing that I will just say is that just because I live in the Chicagoland area, I'm probably more nervous about the attention that car garners. And so because of that, I would just say be careful of that.
Okay, so now let's go on to your dream car. Everybody has a dream car. Let's just say that you happen to win the lottery. After you gave me my cut, what would be your dream car if money was not an issue?
Wow. I'm really starting to like, can I have two choices? Okay, so since I won a lotto, I could buy two cars. So one car that I would buy is that Mini, the larger Mini.
BMW Mini?
The BMW. Okay, yeah, I'd buy that. And then I would buy the BMW X6, the truck.
Okay. All right, so the BMW, you would join the BMW family. Yes. So in closing, we definitely appreciate you coming on and talking about your car experiences and the cars that you drive. In closing, one of the things I always ask people is, one of the things I know is that the car, the inside of your car is where you spend most of your time. This is what we do. When you go to work, you're in your car a lot of times by yourself. When you riding around, a lot of times you're by yourself. And when you're driving in a car by yourself, guess what? You put on music. So what is your go-to driving music?
It really depends on the kind of mood that I'm in. In the morning, I listen to satellite CNN. With everything going on in the White House, I like to keep abreast of everything that's going on. So I listen to a lot of talk radio, CNN, MSNBC, just to make sure that I know what's going on in the world. But on a Saturday afternoon, I may listen to some Cardi B. I may listen to some Kim. I'm part of the Beehive, so I may listen to some Beyonce. It just really depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
So we've talked to Carla about her Chrysler 300. We've talked about the used Land Rover, about the Jeep Liberty. I'm not sure what type of vehicle that you have or what you're looking for. You definitely want to keep in tune with the podcast that we're doing right here at the Carman Show, so that you can learn a lot of information about what other people are doing with their cars and the situations that they have to deal with. So we want to thank Carla for coming on. We want to thank Carla for coming on. We want to thank Carla for coming on the show and giving her kind of experience with some of these used cars. And we definitely appreciate you coming on, Carla.
Anytime.
All right. Well, listen, we're getting ready to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back. And I hope that you learned some information. And don't forget, tell somebody that we're on. You're listening to the Carman Show podcast. And we're going to come back, and we're going to give you some more valuable information.
This is the Car Man. Need an upgrade in your car? Call me to upgrade your car. 877-870-4815. Need a lower car payment for what you drive? Call me for a better payment. 877-870-4815. Need a car with bad credit? I can get you approved based on your job. 877-870-4815. To listen to my next show and get a list of all my car buying programs, go to my website, thecarmanshow.com.
All right, welcome back. You're listening to the Carman Show podcast, and we're talking about cars losing value, being upside down, and now let's talk about the best way to get out of an upside down situation. The best way to get out from a car that you're upside down in. It comes in one simple word: money, money, money. Money is what will get you out of an upside down situation. If people had an unlimited amount of money available at any time, anybody could trade their car in whenever they wanted to, because what stops people from trading in their cars most of the time that have balances is they're too far upside down and there's not enough money to eat up the negative equity, which is the difference between what you owe and what the car is worth. Most people don't have an unlimited amount of money, so trading in a car becomes a 3 to 4 year on average decision. Money is still what will make it happen. Now, let's talk about where's that money going to come from. There's a couple different ways, or 3 different ways where money can come and help you. First of all, rebates. Most manufacturers have rebates between $1,500 and $3,000. That can be used to offset the balance on what you have. So if you're upside down by $3,000 and there's a $3,000 rebate, guess what? You are no longer upside down. It's just that simple. Just having a rebate will help offset the money. If you're upside down $5,000, you got a $3,000 rebate. Now you're only upside down $2,000. typically dealerships can eat up anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 in an upside down balance. That means they can roll that over to your next loan. You can't do it on all vehicles, but in a lot of cases, dealerships can do that. Here's another thing where money will help you get out of that upside down situation. You got to buy the right car with the right book on it. And what I mean by that, that's car business language. But what I mean by that is that a dealership owns a car for a certain amount of money, but sometimes they own it for far less than what it's worth. In turn, this can absorb the upside down balance. So for instance, let's say the dealership owns a car for 10 grand, but the car book value is 15,000. So the car's book value is 15,000. Technically, the dealership could sell the car for 15,000 and make a $5,000 profit. But in an upside down situation, the dealership could sell you a car with that example I just gave, and they could use that extra $5,000 in value to be able to eat up what you owe and help you get into another car. So finding the right car, and dealerships know the right cars. They deal with it every day. So a lot of times you're not going to have the same options as far as being able to get out of the vehicle, because there are going to be situations where you are it might be a car that might not fit what you want. So you're going to have to be a little open when it comes to finding the right car. And then the last thing is just plain cash down. If you take cash down and combine it with the two other ways, that makes it easy. So it's just like this. You have a car that you owe 10 grand on, but the car is only worth 5 grand. You're 5,000 upside down. Let's say that you have $1,000 cash. So now instead of 5,000, you are 4,000 upside down. Let's say that there is a $2,000 rebate. So now instead of 4,000, you're 2,000 upside down. And you know that formula, either utilizing the rebates in cash or buying the right car, which would be a used car, in cash. Those two things will help get you out from being in an upside down situation. It's just that simple. So hopefully you've been able to pick up some information on what is it to this upside down situation. How do you get out of it? How does it start? What can you do to better your situation? That's what the Carman Show podcast is all about. Now, to end each show, what I like to do is I like to do talk about a segment I have called Car Dealership Horror Stories. These are things that you need to know from dealerships, and the things that you need to avoid from dealerships that don't have your best interests. So today I'm going to briefly talk about one of the biggest lies that car salesmen tell you. They tell you when you buy a car, and I know a lot of you will say, yeah, I've been told the same thing. Keep this car for 6 months and then bring it back in to trade it to get a better car or a lower rate, whatever it is. That is a lie. You cannot take a car, have it for 6 months, and trade it in without a substantial amount of money from you. As you've heard me talk about on this podcast about being upside down, you buy a car and for 6 months, you really haven't even paid for the car. This can't happen, listeners. Anytime that a salesman tells you that, walk out. You do not want to do business with them. They are lying to your face to try to get you out of the dealership. And hopefully in the 6 months, you won't come back. You have an accident in the car, so you got to get another car. They're not at the dealership. In other words, they don't want to have to deal with you when you come back, but they want to make that commission now. The only way that can happen, and a salesman would have to tell you this, is that, yeah, in 6 months, you could get out of the vehicle, but you're going to need $5,000 to $7,000. Because in the first a couple years on your loan, you're paying nothing but interest. Car salesman is trying to get a sale today, trying to get that commission check. when you come back in 6 months and you tell him, and if he's there, and you tell him that you want to trade in that car, you know what he's going to tell you? You haven't had it long enough. Totally contradicting what he said 6 months prior. In a lot of cases, the salesman won't even be working at the dealership. Bottom line, listeners, don't believe this lie. Don't believe this lie. So listen, my time is about up. I want to thank everybody that has listened to this podcast. I want to thank you not only for listening to the podcast, but I want to thank you for picking up some valuable information. I've been educating car buyers across the country for the last 20 years, and I want to continue to do it with my podcast. So if you like what you hear, download this podcast, pass this podcast on to a friend. This is the podcast that people need to know about being upside down. That's what I talk about. That's what I do. So definitely you want to stay tuned for that. And don't forget that I'm all about helping you, the automotive consumer. I always like to end each show that I do by saying, you can with Carman.
Hey, this is the Car Man. Need an upgrade in your car? Call me to upgrade your car. 877-870-4815. Need a lower car payment for what you drive? Call me for a better payment. 877-870-4815. Need a car with bad credit? I can get you approved based on your job. 877-870-4815. To listen to my next show and get a list of all my car buying programs, go to my website, thecarmanshow.com.